All right, let's dive into a hypothetical scenario here, one that might sound like something out of a cyberpunk novel, but stick with me because the implications are very real. Imagine a world where the United States controls Bitcoin, not just a little bit of Bitcoin, mind you, but a significant, dare I say, a terrifyingly large chunk of it. What kind of economic power would that give the US? We're talking invade a small country for looking at you funny levels of power? Maybe not. But it's definitely more leverage than anyone should probably have. So buckle up, because we're about to break down exactly how the US controlling Bitcoin could reshape the entire global financial system. And trust me, it gets wild. First up, let's talk about the big daddy of economic clout, reserve currency status. Right now, the US dollar enjoys that privilege, but it's not exactly a secret that other countries, even some we thought were our friends, are getting a little sick of the whole America First spending spree that comes with it. But imagine if the US could backstop the dollar with Bitcoin. Suddenly you've got a digital gold standard, which, let's be honest, is a much sexier sell on the global stage than just trust us, we're good for it. Or here's a thought. What if the US decided, you know what, screw it, we're going full crypto? They could start accumulating Bitcoin like it's going out of style, essentially creating a digital reserve alternative. And just like that, the US could be calling the shots on the future of money itself. They could influence emerging digital trade standards, dictate the rules of the game, and basically become the financial puppet masters of the 21st century. Now, I know what you're thinking. John, this is insane. The US could never pull this off. And you know what? You're probably right, but that doesn't mean they're not thinking about it. Remember that whole Silk Road thing? The US government basically confiscated a massive Bitcoin fortune overnight. It's not exactly a giant leap to imagine them getting their hands dirty in the crypto markets again. Now let's talk about leverage, baby. Imagine the US sitting on a mountain of Bitcoin, like a financial Smaug. But instead of gold, it's lines of code that can crash economies with a few keystrokes. With a hefty Bitcoin reserve, the US could play the ultimate game of economic chicken. Want to mess with US interests? Boom! Bitcoin dump. Need a favor from a developing nation? How about a little Bitcoin boost to sweeten the deal? We're talking about a whole new era of cold currency wars, where Bitcoin becomes the weapon of choice. Forget tariffs and trade deals. This is about manipulating global liquidity cycles with the flick of a mouse. Need to put the squeeze on a rival's currency? Flood the market with Bitcoin, create a little panic, and watch their economy tremble. Of course, this kind of power comes with risks. Miscalculate, and the US could trigger a global financial meltdown that makes 2008 look like a picnic. But hey, when has that ever stopped America before? Controlling a currency is one thing, but what about the infrastructure behind it? That's where things get really interesting. Imagine the US flexing its muscles over Bitcoin mining pools, those vast server farms that keep the whole network humming. Suddenly they're not just processing transactions, they're gatekeepers of the system, deciding who gets to play and who gets left out in the cold. Then there's the node network, the decentralized backbone of Bitcoin. The US wouldn't need to control every single node to exert influence, just enough to monitor transactions, track capital flows, and maybe even censor certain types of activity. And let's not forget about the off-ramps, those crucial bridges between the crypto world and the fiat system. Control those, and you control the flow of money in and out of Bitcoin. Suddenly, the US isn't just shaping Bitcoin's transactional legitimacy, it's enforcing tax policy, cracking down on sanctions evasion, and basically turning the entire blockchain into a giant surveillance apparatus. Privacy advocates would be screaming bloody murder, and rightfully so. But hey, at least the IRS would be happy. Now let's move beyond the economic sphere and into the realm of geopolitics. Imagine the US is sitting on a mountain of Bitcoin, not just as a financial asset, but as a diplomatic trump card. Suddenly they've got a hedge against debt default. Can't pay back those pesky treasury bonds? No problem. Just send over a few billion in Bitcoin instead. And in a world increasingly defined by sanctions and economic warfare, Bitcoin becomes the ultimate neutral ground. You need to make a deal with a country that's persona non grata in the SWIFT system. Bitcoin doesn't care about your political affiliations. It's the Switzerland of digital currency. And let's not forget about foreign aid. Forget about shipping pallets of cash or building schools that never get finished. The US could offer Bitcoin-denominated aid or loans, bypassing corrupt intermediaries and putting resources directly into the hands of the people who need them most. Let's be honest, that the crypto market is like a teenager's hormone levels. Volatile, unpredictable, and prone to making very bad decisions. But imagine if the US had the power to play market maker, to step in and calm the waters during a Bitcoin hurricane. With a strategic Bitcoin reserve, the US could become the lender of last resort for the crypto world. Market crash? No problem. Uncle Sam's got your back, as long as you're a US citizen, of course. They could even suppress rallies during periods of financial overheating, taking the edge off those speculative bubbles before they get too big to handle. Think of it as the Federal Reserve for Bitcoin, but with even more power and even less accountability. Suddenly, the US isn't just a player in the Bitcoin market. It's the referee, the scorekeeper, and the guy who sells hot dogs outside the stadium. Finally, let's talk about the future of technology. Right now, the US is facing some stiff competition in the global tech race. But imagine if they could leverage Bitcoin to cement their dominance. Controlling the Bitcoin ecosystem would give the US a massive advantage in the development of fintech applications, from decentralized finance, DeFi, to next-generation payment systems. Suddenly, Silicon Valley becomes Bitcoin Valley, the epicenter of a new wave of innovation built on the blockchain. We're talking about smart contracts on Bitcoin, tokenized assets, and a whole new world of financial products and services. And let's not forget about the developing world. The US could export its Bitcoin-powered financial infrastructure to countries that are still struggling with traditional banking systems. It's a win-win. The US gets to shape the future of finance, and developing nations get access to cutting-edge technology. So, there you have it. A world where the US controls Bitcoin. Is it a utopian future of financial stability and technological progress, or a dystopian nightmare of surveillance and market manipulation? The truth, as always, is probably somewhere in between, but one thing is clear. In a world of CBDCs and multipolar finance, Bitcoin could be America's Plan B, its ace in the hole. It could give the US unprecedented economic and geopolitical power, but at what cost? What do you think? Could the US really dominate Bitcoin? Let us know in the comments below.